We got this story from the AP, ladies and gentlemen. This may be some of the best news. The only news that could be better is when they formally announce the layoff of these IRS agents. The IRS is drafting plans to cut as much as half of its 90,000 person workforce, AP sources say. Well, there's the news. When I first heard this, I was watching Fox News. I think it was the 5 or something. And they didn't seem freaked out by this. Like, they weren't excited. I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've heard in a very long time. 45,000 IRS agents to be laid off.
Yeah, and that's great. And all these people that are getting laid off, they had the opportunity to quit and take not a pension, but take severance that would take care of them until September. They all could have just said, "Hey, man, I'm out."
Can they
now?
still?
I don't think so. I think that there was a time limit on it, and so,
ouch.
Too bad, so sad. I mean,
it's a mix of layoffs, attrition, and incentivized buyouts.
Okay.
So some people may still get paid out. The layoffs are part of the Trump admin's effort to shrink the size of the federal workforce through DOGE. You know what I love is that
I was going to say, yeah.
Republicans have been saying forever the government's too big, but they've never done anything about it.
Nope.
Now Trump is like, we've got a hatchet man, and we're going to fire people.
not only like your point's great, is well stated, but not only that, but it's also going to change the way that Republicans behave in the future, because now you see that it's not just lip service. That, it's not like, I paid lip service, but I don't know what to do, man. We got into office and I can't do anything. Palms up. I'm sorry. And everything's the same as it always has been. Donald Trump has demonstrated that the president has significant authority to make changes in, at the very least, the executive branch. And the executive branch is where a massive portion of the bureaucracy is. All of the cabinet has all, like, the lion's share of all the bureaucracy is the executive branch. Yeah. So Donald Trump has demonstrated that the president had, like, I forget the exact phrase, but Lincoln said something like, "I'm the president and I'm clothed with enormous power," or something like that. And it's true. The president has a lot of power. And I think that we're going to see the Supreme Court actually rule on that, because there's people that are taking the firings and stuff to, they're trying to use the courts to prevent the president. And that's exactly what needs to happen. These things need to get in front of the Supreme Court. And I think that it's highly likely that the Supreme Court is going to say, no, in Article 2, the powers that are vested in the president are not vested in a bureaucracy. The president has the ultimate authority to fire people. If you don't like that, that is too bad. You can work to change the Constitution, get out there and get an amendment, but until you do that, the president has the authority to fire people. The executive, the office of the executive, actually must do what the president says.
Look at how the AP ends the article. The federal tax collector employs roughly 90,000 workers total across the United States. According to the latest IRS data, people of color make up 56% of the IRS workforce, and women represent 65%. Okay, so what I'm going to say right now is DEI has failed.
Fire them.
When you are not reaching parity, that's what they say. The woke say the percentage in a workforce should represent the percentage in the community.
Right.
So if 56% are people of color, that would indicate racism, and if 65% are women, sexism.
Exactly.
So apparently the DEI has not been working.
Also, I want to know, why don't we have DEI for dirty, dangerous, and difficult stuff? Like, why isn't anybody fighting for equality in, like, trash collection or sewer treatment, or, the guys that have to do the power line stuff?
I want women cleaning sewers.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We need blue-collar women.
Women of color need to be out there.
We need to get women of color cleaning sewers.
Exactly.
And working on
for
oil
equality,
rigs.
Because we love them.
It is so frustrating. That's a great point.
I mean, those jobs pay well.
They do.
Like, I'm totally happy. It's, in all seriousness,
A longshore woman? Forget about it.
if there is a woman of color who wants to work on an oil rig and make $120K a year in a dangerous job, but she can do it, like, let's get that going. Like, those jobs should be available, but for some reason, we're not seeing the interest. Why is that? Is it because we're not adequately advocating for these women to go work these dangerous jobs?
Because they lie and they're preaching and they're just all their words are fake and empty.
Everybody knows why. It's because these jobs are hard and dangerous.
Exactly.
And it's because those people no one wants to go and do the hard, dangerous jobs.
Right.
They want to get the cushy, easy jobs,
Yes.
and they want to sit there and complain and tell you that you're a bad person because they didn't get them. It is exhausting.
They call this air conditioner feminism.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Fair.
Yeah, the idea, I can't remember who coined the phrase. The idea was women are fighting for jobs where they get to be in air-conditioned, comfortable environments.
Yes.
And they never are fighting for working on oil rigs or in sewers.
And then they're going to bitch because you put the air conditioning on too high.
Yes.
And that's the crazy thing because, like...
That's true.
You're right.
It's
too cold in here.
But the reason why it's cold is not because people hate women. It's because men can't take their clothes off.
Yeah.
So if it's hot in an office, guys in suits are all drenched in sweat. So they say, we got to lower the temperature. And then women are like, but I'm cold, so put a sweater on. And then they're like, that's not fair. Why should we have to do that? Because men can't take their clothes off.
You ever have to be in an office for some reason? You know, you're like in HR or something, and the woman there has like a space heater under her desk and a space heater on top of her desk, and they have blankets.
Yeah, they
I go
love
into my
blankets.
doctor's office, and the office ladies have blankets. I'm like, you're bringing your blankie to work now?
But
I'm fine with it. I mean, the space heaters are expensive, right?
Yeah.
But I'm fine with a woman having a sweater or a blanket. I'm not okay with...
Sweater, sure. Like maybe just dress yourself.
I think blanket's fine. Like, if the office is cold, it makes more sense that a woman puts a blanket on than all of the men have to strip down to their shorts.
Agreed.
That's insane. It's like one woman puts one blanket on, or 30 guys take off all their clothes. You can have the blanket.
Personally, I want them uncomfortable.
I sure you do, but I think this is great in the aspect of the fact that Republicans aren't sitting on their hands right now. They're known for writing strong worded letters and sitting on their hands, and now they're just going to go ahead. Doge is going to fire half of them, or at least let them go.
To be fair, Republicans still send their hands. Trump and MAGA are very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't there still some
Thank you for the
Republicans who are upset about this too? Like they really don't want the wrecking ball taken to the deep state?
The Bill Crystals of the world.
Well, I don't know.
He's a liberal now.
Republican
Yeah.
anymore.
Has he changed parties?
He posted in support of trans rights.
Yeah.
Oh, God, he's
Yeah.
the worst.
So it's an interesting... Maybe we can talk about it in a
He's
little
the
bit.
king of the swamp.
He
in my
is.
opinion.
It was a really interesting point. I think Chris Rufo made it that... Was it Chris Rufo? Let me make sure I'm attributing this properly because I retweeted it. Basically, that tons of these anti-Trump personalities said that they were taking this stance based on... it was Chris Rufo, who said, I find it fascinating that so many of the never-Trump intellectuals initially opposed him on the ground of conservative principles, but gradually and without explanation changed all of their principles so they now oppose him on purely progressive grounds. And it's a reference to Bill Kristol saying, stand with trans Americans. You don't have to understand everything about the transgender experience to know that Trump's acts of humiliation and dehumanization are unjust and dangerous. The interesting thing about Kristol and others was that they had actually tweeted quite a bit against LGBTQ groups only a few years ago. But now they're just literally orange man bad, so we support anything the progressives are pushing.
It's disgusting.
I think it's a risk.
Hypocritical.
I think it's one of the risks of having a form of governance that's based on like dialectical tension as well. This is why kind of like the Republican and Democrat Party at the turn of the century also kind of flipped and flopped on some things. Because if you exist purely to oppose the other side, then if the other side does because Trump was really more like a 90s liberal. He was never
100%.
some staunch conservative.
The whole all of the MAGA people that are in the office of or in the executive branch now, they're all former Democrats.
Yeah.
Tulsi, RFK, Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that there are some kind of really far right
Could have been in the Bill
conservatives.
Clinton administration.
There's no truth to that. No truth to it. It's the left has moved so incredibly far. We live in, and I keep saying this regularly, we live in a leftist milieu so badly now. We are so steeped in it that something even marginally right of center seems to the left as far right extremism.
But I don't think it's fair to say left anymore.
Yeah.
It's more so where we are, which I would describe as like fairly center with some liberal leaning, fairly liberal in a lot of ways.
Yes.
This is the I see a problem, I want fixed party, and the Democrats are the I hate you party. So that's why you can come out and the Hassan thing is a really good example. I tweeted that Hassan got suspended, not banned, and then he tweeted Tim Pool defends Rick Scott, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't. But the point is, well, sure. But the point was, their opposition to us is not rooted in fact. It is not rooted in policy. It is rooted in you are bad. That's it. So fascist, Nazi, they just literally mean bad guy. You are bad guy.
And bad is just opposed to them because they can do absolutely mendacious, horrible things. He will celebrate that he was celebrating terrorists. He was celebrating Luigi Mangione murdering a man who done nothing wrong other than be the CEO of a business. Right? He's the CEO of a healthcare company. And sure, the way our healthcare or not healthcare company, health insurance company, but ensure the way that our healthcare industry and the insurance that goes along with it, it's a complete pigsty and it's a mess. I agree, but that doesn't make it okay to just murder people because this guy doesn't like it. But people like Hassan, the far left, they will celebrate that because they are just absolutely bad people.
Yeah, Tim's right. It really doesn't have anything to do with leftism per se. It's more just like they will bite any bullet as long as it's against you.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
John Oliver did a Last Week Tonight on Ukraine, and for the life of me, this is the craziest thing imaginable. It's one thing to say, I know some friends of mine are trans, and I'm concerned about the things they're going through, and that's an emotional experience, and I'm like, okay, let's have the argument over science and the issue, blah, blah, blah. Morality, fine. Ukraine makes no sense. There is not a single argument that Democrats can present or that they have present other than, what was it, the Budapest Agreement? Where they're like, well, 30 years ago, we said that we would defend Ukraine if Russia invaded. And we also promised that we wouldn't expand NATO, but then we did, neither of which were approved by Congress. But that means now we have to fight. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to pause you right there. Sure, we promised Ukraine would defend them. That is not a reason to defend them. Like I'm saying, what is the logical mathematic function of defending Ukraine? What is gained from it? What is the end result? Why should we do it? We said we would. No. Saying I said I would do it does not mean you should. Imagine this. 30 years ago, there's this cliff overlooking a beautiful lake. And you say, I'll tell you what, if at any time, someone cuts that tree down, I will be here and I will cliff dive off this thing. And then you show up 30 years later and the lake is barren. It's rocks now, and they go, jump. And you go, I can't do it now.
Yeah.
And they're like, you said you would. That's not a reason to do it. The circumstances have dramatically changed. And the argument that 30 years ago we said we'd do it, and it's like, yeah, okay, everything's completely different now. That's not a reason. If you come to me and say, we're going to get mineral rights, we're going to secure Ukraine, we're going to get access to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant or whatever, I'd be like, oh, okay, the U.S. is trying to do a thing. No, they're just like, we have no reasons. We like Zelensky and Trump is bad. Oh, okay, well, it's not a reason to be in a war.
And I don't know if they even like Zelensky. They just hate Trump. They everything that MAGA. They don't. Because he was, we all know this is a fact. Ukraine has been terrible and has been corrupt for thousands of years, for hundreds of thousands of years, and it's been in every article written. And then all of a sudden, just because Trump's like, you know what, you're my favorite person in the world, and they're going to back him from the because of Putin. Because of Russia.
You know that Kiev was the capital of Russia?
I did hear that.
A very long time ago.
Yeah.
Ukrainian Rus are the actual first Russians.
Oh.
Yep, and then it moved. And Ukraine means borderland. And
good game, video game.
It is. And for the Ukrainians, they don't have the same connection to country as a lot of other people do. Like, I don't want to completely disparage them and say that they don't have any kind of national history. Of course, that's not true. Sure. But there's a big difference between the Ukrainians and the Russians. I'll give you a simple example. 7 million Ukrainians fled the country. And this is a population, it was a population of like 39 million at the time. So you're looking at a massive portion of the country, 20% fleeing instantly. And large portions refusing to fight and being forced into conscription. It is not a deeply patriotic and nationalistic nation. Most of the people that I spoke with when I was down there, and the sentiment that was conveyed to me, they want to join the EU so they could leave Ukraine and go and work in Europe where they'd make more money.
Right.
These are not people who are like, the borderlands are our country, we believe in. It's like, okay. The oligarchs who rule the country did it through force. When the Soviet Union collapsed, they went around with guns and just took over properties. So it doesn't have the same nationalist fervor as other countries do.
It's decreased 10 million within the last from 2021 to 2025.
Yep.
10 million.
And I believe 7 million were fled at the start of the war.
6.9 to 8 millions. Yeah.
Yep. Fled at the start of the war. or because of the war?
And aren't the east portion of Ukraine were Russian? Like they
Yes.
side with the Russians?
They're mostly like, I think they're mostly like ethnically and
Ethnic Russians,
Russian-speaking people in the eastern portion.
As is Crimea, where the Russian naval base is and has been since the Soviet era. So for Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed, they lost control of Ukraine for the most part, but still maintained these strategic military positions. So they were not going to let NATO come in and bring these people into the EU. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.